Aloha, folks, and welcome to another episode of Candidate Update. My name is Feena Benoit, and I have here with me Mike Scott, the U.S. Senate candidate from Maryland. I am the U.S. Senate candidate from Florida, and you are watching the campaign update. And we've got some good stuff happening today. Today, we have Mike Ross coming to us from North Carolina, who is running as a Libertarian for the governor of North Carolina. We also have Kevin Hale from the great state of Texas. And today we are talking about a public health crisis. According to today's AP News article that came out, the Surgeon General has declared our Second Amendment rights as a public health crisis.
I mean, I kind of understand what he's saying because guns are inherently dangerous. I really get that, but something tells me it's not about the gun. I've owned guns for 52 years. I've never shot anyone, like anyone. We used to carry guns in the back of our racks when I went down to high school in Florida. They had shotguns and rifles and gun racks, bullets in the freaking glove, and nobody got shot. Never even heard of it happening. I think there is a public health crisis, but I don't really think you should blame the gun there, Vivek. That was the guy's name, Vivek Murthy or Murtha or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not an expert, so but I looked it up, and there are like twice as many stabbings. It's just not quite as effective. Although, if you want to hear something really funny, mass stabbing statistics involved only knives. I went to Quora and just asked. It was actually really hilarious. Turns out that clubs and sticks and things are used at an even higher rate. And if you really want to kill somebody,
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's really easy to kill somebody with stabbings. I mean, they're starting to ban knives in England. If you ban the tools instead of addressing the actual problem, I think that's the problem. Banning tools instead of addressing the problems, which are poverty, disconnection, corrupt government, 40% taxation rate in a lot of cases when you add up everything. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there.
For sure. Now, the purpose of the show, a lot of this purpose of the show is to run commercials. And I don't know if you're paying attention, but last week we ran a commercial of one of our candidates, Erica in West Virginia, who's also running for governor.
Kolonich.
Yes. Kolonich. We're going to get that name. It's going to be on the tip of our tongue every time. She was great, but she's got a great commercial, and I'm going to play it right now.
I advocate for everybody's rights all of the time, which means gun rights and freedom of speech all of the time, irregardless. I think that focusing on guns as a violence problem takes it away from what the real issue may be, which is a societal problem. Why do we want to kill each other? Framing a limitation of a freedom or liberty as a way to protect people is a slippery slope, because you slowly start infringing on freedoms and liberties, and you slowly start chipping away at those things until you have nothing left. And that's why it's important to always advocate for all liberties and all freedoms all the time.
So to make sure that we're all clear, the Second Amendment of the Constitution does state a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Shall not be infringed. I'm personally upset I can't have a Scud missile with a launcher in my garage. I should be able to pull that thing out and aim it at folks if they start irritating me too much. But I'm a little extreme.
So let me say this for that extreme side of shall not be infringed, right? So I have behind me a little campaign update, right? So I went to an art exhibit, an opening of an artist that I met since I've been on this campaign. And his whole theme was like astronauts and everything. So I did get this piece of art, and his name is Michael Ferreira. I don't think I said that correctly. Michael Ferreira. There we go. And so he gave me this. It was in like a little gift bag. So I may be auctioning off this particular painting, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But back to the Second Amendment. So when you're talking about outer space, you're talking about munitions. You are talking about atomic energy sources. You're talking about just the rocket launches and everything. And one of my campaign slogans or issues, or I don't even know what you would say, mission statement, or it's a good inspirational statement, is imagine if we had the same enthusiasm for building rockets to go to outer space as we do for rockets with warheads to send to other countries. And we can't do it in one generation. It won't take, it's going to take many generations. Like, we've had a moral obligation since the time we knew that our star's demise. We've known, once we figured that out, this isn't forever. We've had a moral obligation to our future generations to figure out a way to come together and escape this peril. And how we do that is through space exploration. And when we put governmental barriers in front of space exploration through barriers of the Second Amendment, for instance, like Elon Musk, he needs nuclear energy and the access to those kind of, when I say Elon Musk, I don't mean, I'm not just him, but anybody that's trying to be a spacefaring, independent business person. You need that information. We can't harbor that and keep it away from everyone. We need to be able to be free to do this. So I know it's like a long stretch for the Second Amendment, but it's one of those things that once you tie it to something positive, you can kind of start changing the dialogue. And in that kind of feeling for changing the dialogue into something positive, I think that it's important that we do talk about basic firearm safety. So I just want to go over a few things that we've already.
Before you do that, oh, okay, go for it.
Always keep your finger off the trigger until you are ready to shoot. Right?
No.
Treat all guns as loaded. Always keep firearms pointed in a safe direction, preferably away from you. And always be sure of your target and what's beyond it.
What's funny about that is Maj Toure, there he is right there. He had a Black Guns Matter gun familiarization course, and he was doing gun training out in Maryland. And he said the same things. I mean, that's how you do it. Pick up the gun, you keep your hand off the trigger, make sure it's not loaded, and don't point it at anything you don't want destroyed. And yes, make sure you know what's beyond it, because bullets don't stop just because you miss. And he went through all that, but the one thing he said that really hit me, he said we have to change the conversation. Because when somebody says we should get rid of all guns, he says, wow, so you mean no guns anywhere, not with military, police, nobody. And they're like, well, no. And then so he goes, well, you're not anti-gun, you're anti-us having guns. And I wish I had your faith in government. You know, what did Lily, what's her name, Lily Tang or whatever her name is? If we can't ensure that the government won't ever become corrupted and evil like it kind of is right now, then the conversation's over. Why am I going to disarm because it makes you feel uncomfortable? I mean, I was going through the statistics today, and I pulled it up. And that's about 43,000 gun deaths total. And I'm thinking that's really horrible, that many deaths averaged over 4 or 5 years, until you look at the number of people that die in auto accidents. Or you look at the cause of all-cause mortality and suicides, which, by the way, are 60% of gun deaths. 60. Suicides and self-harm fall way down there. I don't even know if you can see it down there. I'd have to go back to the original thing. But diabetes is 8, and it's well under diabetes. I'm not saying that all gun deaths are I'm not saying that gun deaths aren't a problem. They truly are, but so are knife deaths. And so it's a mental health crisis. It's an issue with us as Americans not valuing life. We can fix this stuff, but we can't fix it by banning weapons. All that'll do is embolden our political class to discount what we say even further.
So Joe Hanush says, but government must make a law to prohibit culinary utensils to keep kids safe.
Oh my God, did you not know that they're doing that in England?
Oh my God.
Unless you got a good reason, Negro, you can't carry a gun. Now they're getting rid of machetes too. I get that. Nobody needs a machete running around the street.
Are you kidding me? That's why I carry a machete. On my campaign. This is Florida.
Oh,
I don't know what I'm going to encounter as I'm walking knocking on doors, or even just like walking from my car to where I've got to go.
With a whole machete?
Things.
I don't carry a machete with me, but I do carry a knife.
100% of all drowning deaths are a result of water. Ban all water.
And that's the kind of thing we're saying. You can't. Okay, government offers a Faustian bargain all the time. They tell you, don't worry about it. Give us your money. Give us your weapons. We'll keep you safe. They can't actually keep you safe. A little girl got herself shot September 11th on the way home from my son's school. And I had to send him back the next day, and it crushed my heart. And all I could say was it was a random thing. They weren't even after the girl. Go back to school. And I wanted to keep them home and keep them safe. You can't protect them once they're out, and the government can't either. And in fact, when you look at it, go look it up. Supreme Court of the United States, I think they said it 3 or 4 times. The police have no right they have no responsibility to protect you. None. Those guns are for their protection, not yours. And they upheld this ruling. I don't give a dang. I maintain the right to self-defense. I don't care what the law is. If I feel I need a weapon in a situation, pardon my language, but I'm going to have my shit with me. And I'll worry about the paperwork later.
I wrote this earlier after sometimes I make Facebook posts for myself. I just put it to only me. It's usually reactionary. And because you guys brought up utensils, I wrote this morning. I was like, forks are a public health emergency. For decades, forks have been used to move more food than what is necessary, causing an epidemic of obesity and preventable diseases, leading to many deaths. The government needs to control the use and distribution of forks. Diet and exercise is not enough. Plus, there are plenty of people who don't get enough to eat and go hungry. And it's just not fair. It's the fork. Take the forks. Take them all.
Take the forks, take the guns, take the golf clubs, take the sticks, take the fists, take the evil intent. But I always tell folks, you don't ever have to worry about me pulling my gun or my knife in a case of a fight. If I get into a fight, I will probably beat somebody to death with this because it'll hurt enough. I'm physically capable of doing it. And damn it, I won't go to jail for it because you're supposed to have it in your hand anyway. So I get it. Guns are scary. I thought one of my best friends when I was young, before I moved out of Chicago, right after I moved, I heard he was shot in the head for wearing his hat to the wrong side. I am not immune to the effects of gun violence. What I say is, oh, by the way, he is alive. It turns out he was just in a wheelchair, and we didn't have the internet and Facebook and all that back then. So I found out like 4 or 5 years ago. So I was happy to hear that. But my best friend from when I was 12, shot in the head probably at 14 or 15. Because he was wearing the wrong colors and had his hat the wrong way. I get it. Guns are scary, but it's not the gun, dude.
All right. So we do have some guests coming on today. We got Mike Ross coming from North Carolina. Before we do that, we're going to go to a commercial.
What you do with your body should be none of the government's business. Your body is your body. Your property is your property. Your life is your life. Vote Libertarian. My friend Chase Oliver is standing for president, and I'm out here running for vice president on the Libertarian Party ticket because we believe that your decisions should be your own. Go for a run if you want. Or not.
Welcome, Mike Ross.
Hey, Feena and Mike, thanks for having me on today.
No worries. Thanks for coming in, man.
Yes, sorry for the mix-up last week to you and the audience, but we're here today, and we'll try to make it a great show. So,
No hard feelings. It's a no show, no hard feelings. It's okay. I get it. We're candidates. We're all candidates here. We're all candidates. We know things come up. Miscommunication happens. We all have email addresses that go to no one. We all do.
Yeah. So I'm excited. You're running as the Libertarian Party nominee for North Carolina governor.
I am.
I mean, North Carolina is a pretty nice place. What are you going to do to improve things there? Because I heard it's already very attractive to business. So I'd like to know how you're going to improve it.
Yeah. So, I mean, North Carolina is a wonderful state. Our economy's good. Our tax burden is not as bad as some tyrannical places in this country.
Hashtag Maryland.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few things, though, that are going on in North Carolina that libertarians have solutions for. And I think a lot of libertarians kind of get the whole slippery slope and, long run analysis of things. And there's a lot of trends in North Carolina that are, quite frankly, moving in the wrong direction. And I'll give you a couple of examples, and they're ones that I try to, address front and center with my campaign. And one of them is transparency. At the end of the day, our Republican-led legislature snuck in a last-minute addition to the budget that basically lets all of our General Assembly members classify their own documents, prevent the public from doing that. So transparency is a big piece. We're seeing at the federal and even the state level, huge omnibus bills, hundreds or thousands of pages getting rammed through that are written by lobbyists, with the specific intention of weaponizing the law against, competing businesses and other things. Another big issue is education. We spend about $13,000 per student in this state. And in a lot of neighborhoods and communities across this state, the public education system is completely failing our students, failing to equip the next generation to be competitive, in an advancing, progressing society. I think that as a libertarian, I'm big on getting value for what we spend, getting the best bang for our buck. And the reality is this centralized bureaucratic system is not working. And the Republicans, the way they're trying to fix it, in my mind, is just going to lead to an ideological takeover of private education. So I seek to solve that by saying, hey, our Constitution requires we provide the education. Let's just push that all the way down to the parents and truly free up the market. And another big one, it's kind of a passion project for me. It's really what started and was the genesis of my campaign. Is criminal justice reform throughout the state. I've seen case after case after case where there's some just blatantly what I would argue is wrong laws. But criminal justice, ending qualified immunity, fixing our backwards body cam system that we have here, where the default is to hide it. So those are some of the big issues. I've got 5 that I put on the campaign, on the website, firetheuniparty.com. But those are kind of the big 3: transparency, education, criminal justice reform.
So, Mike, I was raised in North Carolina. I was born in Florida. So I'm back here at home, but I have a home in North Carolina. I will always have a home in North Carolina. And I am a product of the North Carolina education system.
Yeah.
And I did see some issues, like we talked about last week, we talked about rocks, like how we kept learning about rocks every year, and the rocks haven't changed. The rocks didn't change, but we learned about it every year, and I was getting really tired, but there was so much more potential to be had. Once I joined the military and got out of the North Carolina education system, I really blossomed as a student and as an intellectual. And I definitely, I owe my literacy to North Carolina 100%. But there was, it's hard being a kid in North Carolina. It's hard being a kid. I was definitely a product of the free lunch system back in North Carolina before that became like a normal thing. And now it's pretty much ubiquitous out there in North Carolina. So, well, how do you feel about free lunch for school?
Yeah, I mean, so first off, I'm a libertarian and my background is in economics. So the real truthful answer is there's no such thing as free anything. I mean, that's the reality. So the question is ultimately come down to, should society provide lunches for those that are less needy. And I think that that's a very noble thing. I think when you look at a lot of my activism, because I was an activist before a candidate, it was around just that, right? Private citizens trying to help out those less fortunate and those in need. So while the merits of the program are good, the idea behind it and the practical implications of all of these programs is when you're having the government run something and centralize it, you are not going to get efficient outcomes. Because I look at the situation of like a local private school by me that I used to send my kid to before I sent him to homeschool now. And they actually include lunch with their private school. And if I were to send him back today, it'd be about $9,000 a year to send him to this school that's providing.
So how much did you say the state pays for each child to go to school?
On average in the state, you take the total amount we spend on education, divide it by the total number of students, it's just under $13,000. I could send my kid to a private school local for $9,000 a year that includes lunch. Why not? I was one of those parents that, I was thankfully blessed to be able to send my kid to a private school. And I know that opportunity is not available to everybody. But when the government's spending $13,000 to send your kid to a school that has, 25% on grade math competency, and there's a school right down the road that's providing a private education with food for $9,000, and the state and federal government are spending $13,000 on that failing public school. I think that you need to let market forces play this out, because I believe that private citizens, private charity will always be a more effective and efficient means of solving these societal problems. And school lunch is one of those things that, even with my base plan, you just take that $13,000 and you give that to a poor family and say, hey, here's $13,000. You can go choose your educational needs that works best for your kids. So, what may work for a gifted child versus a special needs child, they may have completely different educational needs. But if you just empower those parents and then empower communities, teachers to kind of go after that, I think that you'll have free market forces at play. And that's why, the radical libertarian position, which, I think is very principled and I don't necessarily disagree with, is, abolish public schools. But I think that that's a little bit too radical for the general public, where I think if you force the public schools to compete for every single dollar to provide the best value, one of two things will happen, right? Either one, the public schools will fail and they will abolish themselves, which means that everything else is doing well. Or two, the public schools will actually get better and they'll have to compete and they'll have to get rid of these multiple six-figure salaries for district regional administrators who never spend a minute in a classroom teaching children. And I think if you realign the economics there, I think our teachers, we have wonderful teachers here in North Carolina. And I talked to so many people on the campaign trail who public school teachers were pivotal in their development into a great human being. And I think from talking to other teachers, like the way education has shifted, especially in this state, there's a lot of good teachers who are just walking away, whether it's because they're underpaid for their government price fixing of the monopoly on that service. And if you were to truly bring free markets into there and push that choice down, I mean, I could see a teacher popping up a micro school, take 10 students, right? 13,000 a student. That's 130 that you could run that as a business with 10 kids in the classroom. You tell me one teacher who wouldn't be happy to have 130 to start, 10 kids to educate, and no bureaucrats telling them what to do. So they only have to manage the expectations of those parents, those teachers. And I think ultimately, if we truly bring the free market into it, the real value producers in this equation, the teachers, are going to be the benefactors, and ultimately our kids will get better educations because it'll be much more personalized and much less bureaucracy and red tape and one size fits all approach to all kids.
I agree. All right. So we've got this reasonable libertarian says, Mike Ross, stop it. You're making too much sense. So when I was in North Carolina, I've told people this before, I was very poor, and it wasn't the government that kept us fed, with the exception of the free lunch program, which we had to fill out a bunch of forms and prove that we were poor to be able to have it. But it was the churches. It was the churches that helped us out. When we didn't have food, it was the churches that fed us. When we didn't have Christmas, it was the churches that got us presents. And now that void that you're talking about in the education system, there's a lot of like Christian academies that are popping up, and more people are turning to homeschool and Christian-based education systems in North Carolina. I know my family, for instance, they've definitely gone down that route. Some of them are still in public school, but a lot of like my family and extended family, they've gone to either homeschooling or they go to a more Christian-based academy.
Yeah, I mean, I've really, my son has really blossomed in homeschooling, right? Where we kind of take the approach of the core four. And then I really say one of the benefits of us as human beings is that we are individuals. We all have different skills, talents, interests, passions. And I have realized, my son, I was blessed that he's always done well in school. But since we started homeschooling, even though we kind of, I couldn't get on board with the unschooling trend. I still think like math, science, like those are important to me as a parent. So we do a formal education, but just of the core four. And then aside from that, I let him learn what he's interested in, right? He's 12, about to turn 13. He's actually teaching a summer camp for high schoolers on coding. Why? Because he was interested in that. So we sent him to weekly coding classes. And the thing is, there's so much potential with all of these creative young minds, and we are throwing them into this system that ultimately is just, in my opinion, right? Because I can't quantify this, but in my opinion, we're just stifling future innovation when we take these young creative minds that are trying to seek a way to blossom, and you put them into the system where you're herding them in a building with hundreds of other people, stripping away that individuality and creativity. And I think, quantifying the missed opportunity cost there is something that kind of perplexes me with how I would even go about solving that as a mathematical equation. But that's the way my mind works. But I know just logically it's there. I see it in real life with my own kids and neighborhood kids who, you engage them in something that they're interested and passionate at, and you allow that creativity to bloom. And that's how you get engaged students who care about it. And that's ultimately how we get better, more equipped adults to lead us into the future and solve some of these other big problems that the government is largely just making worse.
Now, we do have another question from Reasonable Libertarian. Mr. Ross, what are your thoughts about Apple pausing their construction of their Research Triangle Park campus?
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of many of the issues here in North Carolina when it comes to something that is not necessarily front and center of my platform, but you'll definitely see touches on it in my website, and that is, this whole situation where we're attracting businesses, we're doing it the wrong way. I think the right way to attract businesses is to create an environment where they and thrive, where you minimize regulation, you minimize taxes, but we do this approach of constantly throwing money at these big mega corporations to bring them in with the idea of future tax incentives. And in the process, we do, quite frankly, some very un-American things, like using eminent domain to steal property, to create roads and things like this to make connectivity. And when you look at how that's done, you create a lot of tension, because I take the radical libertarian position that if Apple wants to do something or not do something, if they want to buy the land and build something on it, great. Hopefully we make it available. The problem is when we are doling out, millions or in some cases billions in tax dollars to make these things happen, and then these companies are pulling back in many cases with no with no consequences. Not just Apple. Look at VinFast. Look at all of these projects where we're doing these big pitches to these international conglomerates to come to North Carolina. And I like the idea of it, but the way that we're doing it, where we're doling out tax dollars, we're stealing property to make it more attractive. And then in most cases, they're kind of doing the what I would argue is somewhat libertarian thing, and that's kind of doing what they want. Well, as soon as you bring this equation into here of tax dollars and things there, I think that at that point, the companies really should meet their obligation and go through with what has been done. But I think we really need to stop that. Companies should come here because this is an attractive place to do business with a talented workforce that will enable them to maintain market dominance or market growth. And I think that we could be that. And we don't need to steal people's property to make roads, and we don't need to give big tax breaks to targeted people, nor do we need to stomp out competition. We need to make this a low tax, low regulation environment. And to balance how attractive that will be, I think what we need to do is we need to do away with kind of the backhand part of corporate welfare that I think is very problematic. And that's the concept of immunity, right? Whether it's vaccine manufacturers, chemical manufacturers, we have a big problem with these corporations that I'm fine with them coming in, but if you're going to pollute the rivers and destroy your communities and pollute the air, you shouldn't be getting immunity. I think that's very libertarian to say, hey, go out there, succeed and thrive. But if you're going to cause damage to people around you, if there's any legitimate form of government, it should be holding those companies accountable. And sadly, we just grant them immunity, prop them up, and protect them at the expense in many cases of poor North Carolina communities.
I had another question because I have an issue with the casinos out in Maryland, not because I don't like gambling, but because when they legalized the casinos in Maryland, they said they were going to give all the money to the education. And they indeed did give money to education, but every dollar they sent to education, they pulled out and redistributed elsewhere. It says on your things that you would vote to allow gambling in casinos in North Carolina, depending on the amount of grift or graft. Can you go into that a little bit? Because I thought that was the right answer, and I just want you to explain it a little bit, because everybody else goes, heck yeah, gambling, but explain why.
Yeah, at the end of the day, gambling is nothing other than, in my opinion, free speech, as well as property rights. If I choose to do something with my money, whether it's something you like or don't like, as long as I'm not hurting anybody or taking their stuff. So on a fundamental level, I'm fine with gambling. I don't gamble. I think in many cases, the lottery is nothing but a voluntary tax on people who are bad at math. But you know, at the end of the day, that's the problem, right? I think gambling should be legal on its face. Nobody's being hurt. Nobody's having their stuff taken. But what you have is this, you know, arguably fascistic situation where you have government and corporation or enterprise essentially working together. And if, say, you and I both want to start a casino and we both have capital, but let's say, you know, I'm a libertarian and you're not, Mike. I know we're both libertarians. We're not trying to do that. But just to say, I go in there and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to bribe politicians because I have a principled reason not to. And you say, you know what, I'm going to go make campaign contributions to these 5 politicians in the county, and that's enough votes to get my casino approved. That's the thing that needs to go away. And I think that that's one of the cases that's a problem that libertarians see in a lot of things, where government creates an incentive structure that is so counter to the way things should be. If you really want that to be, legalize gambling for everybody. The big casinos can do it across the board. We're going to get out of that. And if you want to have a poker game with your buddies from the neighborhood, we're not going to send a SWAT team to just legalize it across the board and take all profit incentive away from anybody having to bribe a politician. Because if you take that out, you kill the grift. At the end of the day, you know, gambling's gambling. Our state promotes the lottery all the time. It's no different other than who gets the money. And sadly, the biggest thing about the lottery that I have a problem with, and that's also on my website, is it's quite frankly very fraudulent. The same thing they're doing in Maryland is what they do here, right? The education lottery raises money. Well, if we have 10 billion allocated for, you know, in the budget for education, and the lottery brings in $1 billion, they're like, oh, we don't have 11 billion for education. We still have 10 billion, but we're going to reappropriate this $1 billion and spend it on whatever we want. That's not an education lottery. That's a whatever this $1 billion is being.
And they still raise taxes. That's the part I don't get. They get all this extra money with the cannabis taxes and the freaking gambling taxes, yet their answer is still raise the gas tax, expand the sales tax, tax. It's really frustrating being a libertarian out here. So I appreciate your opinions. I think you're 100% right, dude.
Thanks, man.
But we got to ask about 2A, right? It's the 2A day. We got to ask about 2A.
Well, yeah, we're going to, but I just want to say, fun fact, there are only 2 states in America that have no form of legalized gambling. That is the state of Utah and the state of Hawaii, where that was one of my platforms wasn't a platform, it was local race. And I was like, hey, let's bring some gambling to Hawaii. You know, because, why not? People are so quick to send people to Las Vegas, Atlantic City, anywhere else. But, you know, I think that's really smart what you got going on there. Like, living in North Carolina, yeah, you got to go all the way up to Cherokee to go gambling. And I remember I used to do that with my grandma. And even before my grandma, before they had the lottery in North Carolina, I was before lottery time. Me and my grandma would get in the car, and this would be like the best memories I had with her. We'd get in the car and we'd drive all the way down to South Carolina, right there at the border, and buy us some lottery tickets. And the whole way there and the whole way back, we were talking about how we were going to spend that lottery money once we got it. Everybody was going to get a house. Everybody was going to get a car.
I'm close enough to South Carolina in like the Charlotte region. We still have to do that, but we have to do that with alcohol. Because the state of North Carolina seems to feel that it's entitled to a monopoly on the retail sale of alcohol in this state. So every liquor store in the state of North Carolina is owned, operated, by the state of North Carolina ABC board.
ABC
So
boards.
anybody who knows that, a monopoly impacts things in a lot of ways. So as me, someone who likes bourbon, right? Bourbon's my drink. Well, all my choices here in North Carolina, the only bourbons I can buy are those that the state of North Carolina chooses to purchase. So we just hop right down there, go right over the border to Frugal McDougal, and you look at their whiskey and scotch selection. And down there, a private citizen can do that. So they see, hey, the whole Charlotte market is very limited in some of their whiskeys. They have an amazing whiskey selection. Like it's a great,
And you know what
great
else
place to
North
go.
Carolina is known for?
Yeah.
Making their own bourbon. That White Lightning down there ain't no joke. And it's what is the joke is that there is such that is a great example of how prohibition creates a black market.
Yeah, it does 100%. Yeah, and I mean, it's even in the enforcement, right? I've seen because criminal justice being a big piece of one of the things I do. It's kind of that bad habit of mine. I follow the arrest reports in my county. So anybody who's arrested, I want to see that, mainly just because it kind of helps keep that fuel under me when I see all of these kind of nonsensical arrests. But there was this big thing where they used the speakeasy laws to shut this down because like a business owner was throwing like a private event. And this is like a business owner in your downtown area who spent all this time and money attracting, and they threw some like private event. And because they had like some like Jello shots and like glasses of wine, because they were selling them, they, no joke, raided this place. Like it's just the laws behind this, where it's like, really, I can't have 10 people over for an event where I'm like selling art or something like that. And if I want to, just the whole system on alcohol in our state is ridiculous, being that, NASCAR started with moonshine running coming out of the mountains. Like you would think that if there was ever a place in the country where like craft alcohol manufacturing and would have some freedom, you would think it would be here, being that
Same thing with the marijuana.
It's not.
That's the biggest state, the biggest cash crop in North Carolina, tobacco.
Should be.
And then what happened in the 90s? They killed the tobacco industry, just annihilated it. And for better or for worse, that was a lot of jobs in America. It was a lot of farming jobs in America. And the natural, segue from tobacco is the hemp. The hemp, not just cannabis plants, not just the smokable, but the wearable, the ropes, the building material,
Hemp
like
plastics, hemp concrete. There are actual things. I'm upset at the cannabis industry because they keep giving plastics all over the place. Why don't they have hemp plastics or reusable glass jars? But yeah, we could fix a lot of stuff. I don't understand a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So Reasonable Libertarian just pointed out a great one that I used to wait tables in North Carolina. All I want to do is buy a bottle of wine at the grocery store before noon on Sunday. Only beer too. No liquor. No liquor on Sunday. Only beer.
And by the way, a reminder, we were talking about the lotto before. The lotto was running numbers. We had that in everybody's neighborhood back in the day. The government made it illegal and then introduced it back and gave it to us and taxed the crap out of it. Everything they hand you is something they made illegal so they can charge you for it. The government is a necessary evil, but it's too big and too powerful, and they're dunking on us.
So, Mike, before we get any further, we gotta pause for the cause.
Okay.
So
And we've got to plug you, dude. We've got to plug you. All right. Website, Mike Ross, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, so my website, it's firetheuniparty.com. You can head on over there, take a look at my platform, the things that are important to me, my general philosophy. And again, I'm trying to really go into this, as a third party candidate. Robinson and Stein are going to spend between 150 and 200 million before this is all said and done. I'm trying to go about it and say, hey, I'm a financial guy. Competing with money would be silly, but I can go out there and have real conversations and bring what I think are common sense solutions. I don't know what you think, but we're going to put that out. And at the end of the day, it doesn't take money for you, a North Carolina voter, to tell your friends, to introduce them to that, because at the end of the day, unaffiliated voters in this state are a plurality in North Carolina. And if we all got together and banded against this uniparty that's just making things worse, we could get real change. And that's free. It's free to tell your neighbors. So please head on over to firetheuniparty.com if you want to donate. We're looking for people in all 100 counties to get signs out for polls, work the polls. Donations, money, time, talent. That's what I need most. I don't want money as much as I could use. Hey, if you could distribute signs, if you could hand out literature at the poll, those are the things that are grassroots that we can make the biggest impact on. So
I
So
I
don't forget
tell
your
people all the
endorsement.
time. I tell
yeah.
people all the time. I'm sorry, I lost it again. I tell
Yeah.
folks all the time, I can't get out there and spend 20 million on a campaign, so I can't reach everyone. If you don't like what I'm saying, call me up and we can discuss it and I can convince you or not. If you like what I'm saying, tell everybody. If you like what this man is saying, tell everybody, because we're not going to spend 20 million campaigning. If we did that, we'd be them and nothing would get changed. So thank you for that too.
Yeah.
So you got some endorsements.
I do. Yeah. So I'm very thankful. Early on, I got an endorsement from, Dr. Mary Ruart, Spike Cohen, Joe Garcia, who was a former chair of our
Jason
state party.
Momoa, Gaston
Jason,
County.
Jason Momoa. We had to put a little comical ones up there. That's an artifact before any endorsements came in. We put a couple of fun endorsements up there, and then we just kept a couple of the good ones up there, because if you can't engage in politics with a little bit of humor and look at the whole situation, we're fighting to save the world from tyrants here. If you can't take a little bit of humor into that, I don't know how you stay in the fight, because it's pretty demoralizing when we're almost $35 trillion in debt. I have a 12-year-old, it's $250,000 in debt if I equip him to become a taxpayer in this country. $250,000, and he's 12. Like, on what level is that even? So if I can't bring humor to it, I think I'd probably go to a really dark place looking at the reality of the situation. So humor puts a smile on my face and helps keep me energized.
Now, I think it's time for a commercial. I feel like we need a commercial. And I'm going to tell you right now, Mike, I need some commercials. Send me some commercials. Everybody, send me some commercials. And we want commercials. But before we get to the commercials, like Mike Scott said, Mike Ross, that today is the Second Amendment day. We're discussing that. So do you want to talk about a little bit of your Second Amendments, how you feel about it as a North Carolinian? And yes.
Yeah. So I'm happy to take this one because I'm probably one of the more radical extreme libertarians in the fact that I think the words of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights mean what they say. So when I say shall not be infringed, to me that's pretty clear. I feel like most 5th grade, 6th grade kids who have kind of had a little bit of vocabulary know what the word infringe means. And I asked them, what does shall not be infringed means? It means you can't take it away, right? So I'm an absolutist there. One of my opponents, Mark Robinson, the GOP candidate who's backed by Trump, he got famous in 2016 because he gave a really, really good 2A speech, right? That launched his whole, from out of nowhere, and now he's the lieutenant governor. There's a real fight going on in North Carolina right now. 29 states in this country have enacted constitutional carry, which is something that's so audacious that just says, hey, that Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights? Yeah, we're actually going to pay attention to that, because that's all constitutional carry is we're just going to acknowledge that this, very second thing in the list of the Bill of Rights, we're going to acknowledge it. So there's a big push to make North Carolina the 30th state. So a Grassroots NC, which is a gun rights organization here, has been pushing to get the GOP to use their veto-proof supermajority that they have currently to pass constitutional carry in our state. Well, when Grassroots NC, which is primarily Republicans in that organization, was lobbying, dropping off signatures, and putting out a call to get people to come there to help get this passed, I was there. Mark Robinson was in another state campaigning with Trump, collecting money. So, when I see that, I hear it from a lot of Republican voters. Well, Mark Robinson's good on guns. And I say, well, he sounds good on guns. Where is he? This is a pivotal moment. We're in the final couple of months of a GOP supermajority. If the GOP truly cares about the Constitution and guns, give us constitutional carry now. And despite Republican grassroots groups that are fighting for it, despite a libertarian candidate showing up there, lobbying, walking around, talking to legislators with grassroots, he won't even acknowledge it. So to me, for gun voters, for those voters who the Second Amendment is their single issue, because there are quite a few of those, and they've started to kind of coalesce around my campaign. I'm the only candidate that is actively pushing to get constitutional carry right now. And let me say this: if you elect me as governor and the GOP fails to pass constitutional carry, despite the fact that I know you, their voters, if you're a Republican listening, want constitutional carry, I will solve the problem even without the legislature. And anytime some nonsense, victimless just gun crime where someone is caught in possession, I'll just start handing out pardons. We've seen it works with the drug war. And if you pardon victimless crime long enough and law enforcement realizes, hey, there is absolutely no point in us pursuing this, because as soon as we throw these charges, they're going to get pardoned. That's how you end the drug war. That's how you end unconstitutional laws that are being enforced. And that's one thing, despite our weak governor model, that I think having a libertarian in the governor's mansions could do wonders for our state when it comes to criminal justice reform and fixing the drug war and making it so that these forced government monopolies are not harming our society. Whether it's gun control, I view that as just trying to force the government's monopoly on guns, and the drug war is really just them forcing their monopoly on drugs, because it doesn't go away. Right? It's just, hey, you can't do cannabis, but you can buy all of these antidepressants and anti-anxieties and all these things to big pharma that, states that have legalized it for medical reasons are showing pretty clearly, hey, people can solve these things that big pharma is selling medicine for with a plant that's been here for thousands of years that you could, in theory, grow in a closet in your house. Right? So I think that's one thing that's there. That I'd love to see us change on 2A. I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show, but I'm with you, Mike, when you were saying I am a constitutional carry holder, just because, they already had my fingerprints from my financial affiliation. So not a huge deal. So I have it. My wife has it. But at the end of the day, if there's not a metal detector and I'm going somewhere, one, you're not going to know that I have a gun unless you're immediately like threatening someone, right? Like I don't go around, I'm not going to pull it out. I train jujitsu. So even if I'm threatened, I'm probably still not going to pull it out, right? Like it's really just, if someone's life is in immediate harm, it's there as an equalizer. And I wasn't always a gun guy. I was always like a libertarian and fine with it, but I wasn't a gun guy until I had someone very close to me get murdered. I mean, that was what it was. I didn't feel the need to carry a gun until my uncle, he survived the 08 crisis, lost his job in New York. My mom brought him down here. He got a job just at BJ's as a second career after he was homeless in New York. And coming home from work one day, he was shot in the face with a sawed-off shotgun for a 6-pack and a pack of cigarettes. And then I found out it was a crime spree the day before. Same guy who shot and killed my Uncle Bob robbed this guy who was a concealed carry holder. And he had that thing where he said, well, I could have shot him, but he was just trying to take my property. So I figured it was just better. So I didn't shoot him. That kind of hit hard when he came to Uncle Bob's funeral, because it's like, wow, if you would have done something, my Uncle Bob might have been alive, because they shot him the very next day doing the exact same thing. But that was that moment that I said, hey, even though I don't like guns, there's no other scenario that could protect someone in that environment. It is the single greatest tool. You can't call the cops. They're not going to get there in time. There is no other tool that could have protected that. And if you view it as that, it's nothing but a tool. The actual tool does nothing without intentional action on the part of the person wielding the tool. Then it just becomes, hey, is this tool dangerous? Sure, but there's a lot of tools that are dangerous. I mean, a car is dangerous.
Your stove is dangerous.
Your stove is dangerous. There's a lot of dangerous tools. And the idea that you take the tool away from someone who means nobody harm, all you're doing is providing a strategic and tactical advantage to the bad guy and taking it away from the good guy. That's the objective reality of any gun-free zone on planet Earth. You put a sign there, anybody who will listen to that sign, anybody, is not a threat. If you see that sign and you disarm, you are not a threat. And anybody who is a threat is not going to see that sign, turn around, put their gun down, and not move forward. What they're going to do is say, oh, here's a place where nobody that I'm trying to shoot at will shoot back. And so on its face, I say abolish all gun-free zones. I'm a libertarian, so I respect private property rights. So if you want to ban firearms on your private property, I am okay with that. However, and maybe I'll get some pushback from some libertarians. I haven't even floated this idea with anybody, so I'm going to test it right here with y'all. But the way I see it is if you move to this place where gun-free zones are banned except on private property, and you are a private property owner, and you choose to ban firearms, and I voluntarily disarm, I believe that it's reasonable for you to be responsible for my safety at that point. And if I get shot on your property that you have disarmed me on, I think that criminal liability in that case. And I think if you do that, no private organization will put up a gun-free zone, period, because they don't want to take that liability.
Except for bars.
I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah, or the bars. And if it's a bar or a place that isn't a higher you know what? They will pay for armed security. And they, you know, if they're smart, maybe some insurance and other things, and negotiate in their contract with armed security to like, there's so many solutions there. But this idea that we're going to put some words on a piece of paper and slap it on a wall and think that we've done something is just so naive and quite frankly, ignorant to reality. And I hate to use that word, but it's really just ignorant to reality. If you think putting a sign on a door that says no guns is going to do anything at all, even a fraction of a percent of changing anything, you're just not living in objective reality.
Judge Ketanji Brown just said that just because you're not a citizen, she said the 2A was inherent, just to being human. I've been saying that for ages.
Yes.
And so this will bring up a slightly different one. What about felons having the right to bear arms, since undocumented migrants, illegal aliens, whoever comes across? What about felons suing for their gun rights? Are you supportive of that?
I am. And I honestly think that the idea that a non-violent felon specifically, because one, our criminal justice system, is so broken that there are things where nobody is harmed in any way and it's a felony. Can
I say something to that? This is what I say. This is one of my campaign, because you asked the golden question, and this is in my opinion, the golden answer. If you are afraid of them to have a gun after they get out of prison, why did you let them out? Why let them out? If you're afraid of them exercising all the full rights that everyone else has, why did you let them out?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, I mean, and granted, I'm biased because I fall on a side here, right? I very firmly choose a side when it comes to 2A. But the reality is I don't think that there's actually any like logical consistency to why people really want to take guns away there. That like you'll see the same person who's like, oh yeah, he shot somebody, so take his gun. They'll be like, oh yeah, he embezzled funds, so take his gun. Like there's differentiation where, do I think if someone has, because there's policy that you put forward as a candidate, and then there's the ideological side, right? There's lots of libertarian thought and ideology on this, and I'm definitely much more on the radical side ideologically. But when you look at the way it's really working and who it's impacting, rich people with nonviolent felonies, right? Like white collar crimes, they have no problem getting their guns back. Do you look at the real impact of where actual people are having felonies and having their gun rights taken away? In many cases, it is poor people who have been convicted of felonies where in many cases there are no victims, or in some cases it's a trumped up charge where it could have been a misdemeanor, but they go for a felony to send a message or whatever reason. And in those situations where, to me, where someone has a felony, but no one was harmed, it was not violent, to say that they can't protect themselves, especially if they live in a poorer, potentially riskier area, just because they got popped with weed 3 times, right? Like to me, that is so fundamentally unjust, because I'm like you, Mike. 2A, the right to self-preservation and protection, it doesn't come from the Constitution. The Constitution is just enshrining something that exists all the time, everywhere on planet Earth. It's just a matter of, is someone trying to infringe on that right? But self-preservation is not even unique to humans. I mean, this is fundamental biological instincts to keep oneself alive and protect yourself from harm. It is so fundamentally inherent to living creatures that the idea that we as smart ones take it away.
We understand the whole fight or flight thing. We give so much understanding for okay, we get the fight or flight, but do you really understand the people that cannot fly? I can't fly. I will fight you. You come at me, I will fight you. I can't help it. I am not gonna fly. Like, I'm maybe after I get my ass whooped and I get knocked down maybe 3 or 4 times, I might run. But if I even think I got a shot, or like, I'm just not going to. I'm gonna fight. That's ingrained into me.
I grew up extremely, extremely poor. I'm originally from the south side of Chicago. I'm from the hood. Like the first time I saw a dog stoned to death hood is the hood I'm from, in an alley. I'm from the hood.
Right.
And guns are part of it. But My thing is slightly different. I don't believe in gun laws at all. I don't like them, but we have to do something to heal the communities because the poverty, the economic warfare, like you said, the educational warfare, because I'm in Prince George's County, which is fairly affluent for African-American counties. And our math literacy rate in our public school is still abysmal, and it's a damn sight more expensive than $13,000 per kid. I think we're up 16, 17, and it gets worse in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Their answer is always spend more money. We have to address the healing, but before we do all that, we have to shrink government, get our tax situation back. There's a whole bunch of stuff to do before we go trying to figure out how to take people's rights to self-defense when they're living in horrible conditions that manifest symptoms of PTSD all the freaking always. The hoods are horrible, and they're worse now than ever. You can't tell me not to have my shit if I'm going in there. Pardon my language again.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a real thing that I also
1 minute. 1 minute. Give you 1 minute. Say what you want to say. If you want to come back on at about like 10 minutes before the end of the show, we're going to banter up and talk some more.
Oh, commercials.
We've got Chase Oliver update, and we got to do a commercial for that. So 1 minute, Mike Ross, take it away. This is your time to shine.
Yeah. So killing that thought, just if you're watching this, please head over to firetheuniparty.com. We need volunteers, phone banking, text banking, donations, however you can help. We are trying to fire the Uniparty here in North Carolina and bring about your liberty. Thanks so much. And thanks for having me on the show. Hope I was at least an engaging guest.
No, dude, I really enjoyed it. And you sound way too reasonable to be a politician. I'm sorry. I don't know, man. You sound reasonable and like you're pro-freedom and anti-government taking all your money. That's probably a terrible idea. You know, Republicans are on our side. They're going to fix everything and give us that concealed carry, and the Democrats are going to take care of our rights. I don't even know why we're upset.
Yeah, I mean, the evidence is so overwhelming that that's going to happen, Mike. I don't know why I'm running.
Thanks for coming on, Mike.
Thank you very much. It's great talking to you.
I'm honored to be the first Libertarian candidate for president to ever campaign in all 50 states, and I did it before our nomination. This kind of energy sends a clear signal to the old two-party system that we are a 50-state party, and this is a 50-state campaign. Voters deserve a president who doesn't merely focus on a handful of swing states, and the Libertarians will be on the ballot for those voters who want to reject the two-party mediocrity and embrace building a foundation that will last for years to come.
And we are back. We got Amber Hale with us. We're getting better every episode. Thank you, Mike Ross, for showing up. And yes, Miss Amber, let's talk about the Chase Oliver campaign.
All right. We want to hit events or media first.
Well, let's just go through the website. If you don't know, this is Chase Oliver, or Vote Chase for Freedom. What is it? Oh my God.
VoteChaseOliver.com.
There we go. VoteChaseOliver.com. He's got a great shop on there that you can find lots of cool stuff. And now we've got some events coming up.
Yep. So we are doing the Zero Hedge debate on immigration with, we're going to be paired with Robbie's, I'm going to mess up his last name, Solav from Reason. And then tomorrow we are going down to the Secretary of State's office here in Georgia to qualify our presidential electors for the Libertarian Party of Georgia. So fun fact, Chase is going to single-handedly secure ballot access for Georgia Libertarians this year because our Public Service Commission races have been canceled indefinitely.
All right.
Yeah. So we're doing that, and we are working on some debate night stuff. But this weekend, Chase and Mike are going to be in Texas. Chase is going to go to Houston Pride. Then they're going to have a fundraiser, and then Mike is going to pop around to different events in Texas.
We do have a Texas candidate coming up, Kevin Hale. And I do want to share some pictures that I got last week that I didn't get to show because I got them during the show. And
My bad, sorry. We're doing that this week.
So I'll show them. I'll let you discuss them.
Okay, I think they're all mixed up now, but this was from New Hampshire when Chase went up to New England. That is I think it's not Pennsylvania. I think that one's the New
It's
Hampshire.
definitely West Virginia because we had that lovely lady up front on our show. That's
Okay.
Erica Kolinik.
Libertarian Party of Iowa. That's them set up at the Pride Festival. And that was from one of the meet and greets he did.
Ooh, I like that flag that he's got. Do you see it? It's got some marijuana leaves on it too. Always love it.
May be a better picture of it somewhere. And then that was Mike.
That's in Florida.
Yes.
That was at the meet and greet that was in the evening at the brewery, and I didn't go to that one. Not sure where this is.
That one is also, I think that one's New Hampshire.
Tom Pink in the back, just looking like the hit man. I love it.
There's a running joke that our editor was playing Secret Service, so not Chase. Tom was looking the part there.
He was looking good.
I believe
this is another one from the brewery, and I know that guy right there. That's none other than Joe Hanush. I know Joe.
We like Joe.
And then what else we got? Oh, this is the breakfast that I attended.
Yeah.
So there's me. There's me.
I was about to say, I don't even see Mike in there.
Yeah, Mike's in. Yeah, there was the Mike Tremack. He's wearing white. He's in the white.
Oh, yeah.
That's also for some of you folks that have been around the Libertarian Party long enough. That's Alex Merced. I didn't even know he was down here in Florida. He's the former vice chair of the Libertarian Party, and he was the acting chair of the 2020 National Convention that was a hybrid, partially online, partially in person. And there's just like these funny like pictures of before and after of how it started. And he's got this crazy curly hair. So at the beginning, he's all nice and combed down and looking smooth. And then by the end, his hair is just like this. And his glasses are crooked. It's just cute. So, but let's move on to this week's photos of the presidential campaign. So we've got Chase Oliver here.
Salisbury Pride.
North Carolina. So was that a good event in North Carolina?
It was pretty good. It was a pretty good event. He got a couple of media hits from that. They have not. One was TV and the other one was newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And then one
That's
was
Mike Ross there, the guy we just had on, running for governor of North Carolina.
And then this was the fundraiser.
There's the Mike Ross for governor and Chase Oliver duo. That's a great picture. Maybe that's like something that should start like a trend of whenever we meet each other, we take a picture of us with our holding our signs or something. If you got them, signs if you got them. So we got some more from the meet and greet.
More from the Salisbury event.
Mm-hmm. So I thought I had some more stuff, but I guess I didn't move it on over. All right. So where can folks see Chase coming up this week?
So we should have the John Stossel interview dropping, the short one. They're doing a short one and then the longer one, but that should be dropping today. And then we just had a really good NPR article, that was a tongue tie, come out a couple of days ago. And then we've got some other stuff coming up. And if you go to the website, we're going to be streaming the Zero Hedge debate from all of our socials. So be sure to watch that on Wednesday.
Oh, I did pull some screenshots. I thought I did. We'll just pull them up real quick. Found some stuff in the wild because, I got to prepare for this. This is a great quote. From Chase Oliver, I'm under the age of 80. I speak in complete sentences. I'm not a convicted felon, he says on the campaign trail. It's a very low bar, but I've managed to clear that. And this is the WBT morning news in North Carolina. You can find his audio. I saw that he got invited to the Soho Forum as well. Coming up in, sorry, I guess it didn't show what date. My bad. Oh, yeah, it does. August 12th. August 12th. The Soho Forum.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mike. Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yes.
And
happy birthday, Mike.
One of our campaign managers, Steve Doshbach, just had a birthday too.
Oh, wow.
Lots of birthdays.
Happy birthday, Steve. Let's see. Libertarian Party vice presidential nominee stumps for ticket in New Hampshire.
That was
So
a good article.
he was in Pork Fest.
Yes.
How'd they go?
It went well. He spoke at the main pavilion, asking for weird questions. I'm waiting on some audio or video of that to come through so I can hear what questions got asked.
Yeah, and when you get that video, please send it my way. Also, I saw on the Chase Oliver social media just today about the Freedom Fest Free and Equal debate. It's got a really good video, and I would love to be able to play that video as a commercial on the show. But I am literally not able to download YouTube videos now.
I got you.
I don't think you realize that you get dinged enough times, and then websites don't even open up for you anymore.
I am bugging Kelsey. Kelsey, you hear that? We're bugging you for video content.
Kelsey,
I'd like some video content too.
Also, wasn't that Kelsey's birthday?
Yes, that was maybe 2 weeks ago now.
I need to get a happy birthday song or something.
Happy birthday to you. Happy I'm not singing Stevie Wonder. No, we're not doing that.
Happy birthday to you.
I got her a bunch of gummy bears, but they got lost in the mail.
Mike and Chase, I always had to ask this. I understand they're nominees now. Are they going to get Secret Service protections? That's kind of what I've been wondering. What kind of amenities are the federal government's rolling out for us? Are they being fair to us as candidates and nominees, us being libertarians?
We do not have Secret Service yet. We're working on it, though.
I mean, I'll roll around with you as a bodyguard a little bit, but mostly when you come to Maryland. Rates are good. Rates are cheap.
Right. I'll hold you to that, Mike.
How long until you guys get up here or get down to Florida again?
I'm not sure. We're kind of patching together the calendar right now, so we've got tentative stuff on there. I don't want to say we're going somewhere and then we actually change it. It's a living calendar.
Okay.
We're doing this week by week, Mike.
Yeah.
We're doing this week by week. But you know what? I do have Chase Oliver on the schedule to come on to the show. And I feel like right now is a great time to introduce the schedule because I haven't done that yet today. So on July the 2nd, we're going to be celebrating taxation as theft with Nathan Slusher and Rob Yates. And then on July the 9th, Chase Oliver is coming on and another candidate from Texas, in particular El Paso. And what we're going to be talking about when Chase comes on is the border, which, that's always a fun topic. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I paired the candidates pretty well. So we've got somebody, running to actually implement positive change policy, the head of the table guy, right? Mm-hmm. And then we've got somebody that's running local in El Paso, right, where the crisis of the border is happening. So I think it's going to be a really good pairing. And like I said again, that is going to be on July the 9th. The Chase Oliver. So, all right, Amber, we're getting better at this. Each episode we're coming up. So I need some videos. Kelsey, happy birthday. Can I get some videos, please? Thank you.
I can't be mad at Kelsey. I got to bring videos too, but I always love having you on, Amber. We always enjoy the updates.
Well, thanks for having me, you guys. I'm going to get off here and get to work.
Work?
All right.
Don't call it work. This is the fun part. Work is when...
number of Americans favor a new political party.
57% of Americans still believe a third major political party is necessary.
Voting third party is a wasted vote? Bullshit. This is the establishment's most successful lie in modern politics. America is the only major country with free elections to only have 2 viable options. Not anymore. The Libertarian Party is the fastest growing political party in America and will be on the ballot in all 50 states. And when we talk about winning, we don't just mean winning the White House. There's all kinds of wins you can have in your state if you vote Libertarian today. We can win ballot access that makes it easier for future candidates to run for office. We can win major party status that gives us more attention from the major media.
I think it's a great day to be a Libertarian.
And we could have Libertarians getting elected all over the country in local races. Whenever Libertarian candidates are able to break through the mainstream media blackout, our support grows. In my televised debate with Senator Raphael Warnock, I was able to reach out to millions of voters. Many of them realized that they were Libertarian all along and just didn't know it. Why is that the radical idea, not the rational idea? If you live in a solid blue or a solid red state, voting for Trump or Biden is a wasted vote, and it won't change the outcome. Voting Libertarian is the only way to make your vote truly count. Currently, all the 2 major parties have to do is be slightly less evil than the other side to win. Let's make the statement that we will accept no evil. When someone tells you you're wasting your vote, recognize that they don't care about you. It's a selfish statement. They are saying that your beliefs aren't worth being represented, that you should silence your voice so theirs can be louder. Vote your conscience, not someone else's politics. Breaking up the duopoly is the only chance for the real radical change needed to give the power back to you, the people. Voting for Chase Oliver for president will contribute to bringing more choices into our political system. A successful third party forces the 2 old parties to think about the issues Americans truly care about. Keep them honest. Show them they must earn your vote. Change begins at the grassroots. I'm Chase Oliver, a candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Montani Semper Liberi. Words that ring true in the hearts of every West Virginian. Mountaineers are always free. Free to live, free to be whoever they want to be. Bureaucrats shouldn't tell us how to live our lives, to tax us and waste our money. This November, West Virginia has a better choice for governor. I am Erica Kalenich, and I'm asking for your vote.
All right. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. This is the second half of the show. And today we have the amazing congressional candidate from Texas, Kevin Hale.
Give him Hale, Kevin. Give him
I will. Thank you for having me on here. I know that you wanted a commercial. We shot the commercial last week, but I'll give you a teaser.
Okay.
This is a piece of teak wood that I had printed the Bill of Rights and the Constitution on. And on the back, I had the same thing. Had. As you can see, it got sanded off.
Oh.
So my commercial hopefully will be very powerful in that. I can demonstrate what's happening to us when they're going after our Fourth Amendment right, when we go after our First Amendment right, our Second Amendment right. So hopefully it's a very powerful message. I did want to, I will upload it as soon as I have the data, but we are in post-production right now. So,
yeah. So you sanded off the bills that they're wearing down?
Yep.
That's
and
a powerful message.
Part of Article 1, the powers that they've given up, the power to declare war and the power to manage our currency. They've given those things up. And I demonstrate how that happened and sand off part of that. And also I include the part about in 1913, how we all became tax slaves and how they sanded away the no capitation and no direct tax from the Constitution and instituted the 16th Amendment. So hopefully it's a very powerful message that gets through. And I'm very excited about it because I had the idea about 8 months ago. I got the prop 2 months ago. and I got a really, really, really great deal on the video production. Normally, this video production thing would cost about $7,300. We got it for $1,800.
Nice.
So we got a really, really crazy deal. The guy's libertarian. He's run for mayor locally. So he really likes me. He gave me a really great deal, and he used a bunch of interns to do it. And they were professional. Those interns were professional, one of which was homeschooled, which I thought was really ironic because he was the youngest one but had the most knowledge.
Shocking. Homeschooling did the best, huh?
I mean, it was crazy. It was quite eye-opening to see.
I had a question for you. I was playing on your website, and I heard you say, what will it actually take to establish a viable third party nationally? Yeah. And you said 13.5%. Can you break down 13.5% for me and tell me why?
Yes. On my website, you'll see that there's a law of diffusion of innovation bell curve. And on that bell curve, you'll notice that it's at 2.5%, it's all innovations, right? Well, the Libertarian Party for 50 years has been the innovators of the political spectrum, right? We were ahead of the curve on LGBT rights. We were ahead of the curve on the marijuana stuff, and now we've been way ahead of the curve on the currency problem. So I think it's really great that we've been able to use our 2% to finally get these people to start recognizing it. But if we really want to get to where we want to be, we have to establish the early adopters percentage, and that is 13.5%. If I can get my race to 13.5%, which isn't very hard, it's only 24,000 votes, because so few people are voting. If I can get there, then I think you can see bandwagon people getting on board, because the tipping point is like 16%, just barely above the 13.5%. So my goal is to establish the early adopters, and I run issues campaigns. I don't try to do the whole thing. I stay focused on 2, 3, maybe 4 issues at tops. This cycle, because I was successful in my last cycle, I got an incumbent to co-sponsor a bill I ran on. So I basically forced his hand when I did that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later. So when I'm doing this, I'm just staying focused on those issues so that people know that I'm serious and that I'm actually talking about legislation, and I'm not trying to do the fear and hate and us versus them. I don't think that's solving our problem. I think it's just dividing our country. And I want to be a guy that brings everybody together so that we can solve the problems. And I want to attack the root issues. So what I've focused on is I started running in 2020 to stop the wars. So the big thing for me is ending the AUMF, which is the authorized use of military force, which is a doctrine basically where Congress gave up its right to declare a war and gave that to the president. So I've been running on that, and it's been used no less than 41 times to send our troops into battle in 19 different countries, as far as I can document. So it's very scary that now it doesn't matter who's the president, they can decide to send our children to war. Just this last week, Congress passed a bill to automatically enlist 18 to 26-year-old men into the draft. The Senate wants to add women to that. So it seems to me that the powers to be are gearing up for another war that I don't want, that we've been fighting for now. I mean, there are people that are going to be able to vote that have never had a day of peace in their life. And I want to stop the wars. So that's the first thing I want to do, is end the AUMF and force Congress to do its job and put up a vote to either declare a war or not. And for me personally, I would not vote to send our children to war unless we were attacked. That would be the only way I'd send our children to war. So far, we're the ones that are instigating all of this. And I don't think we should be doing that. It's a bad foreign policy to be the ones stirring it up and intervening in other countries' business. So that was my number one issue back in 2020. The secondary thing that I got on to was the Federal Sunset Act. And I campaigned for 4 years on the Federal Sunset Act to get that Republican incumbent to get on board. he got on board. So I moved on to an open seat, and also because the gerrymandering changed, and I also got moved into that open seat via the gerrymandering. So I'm actually running where I live. I'm running for the open seat left open by Colin Allred. My Democratic opponent is Julie Johnson, and my Republican opponent is Daryl Day. So those are the two major party candidates that I'm running against. My goal is to get each of them to get on board with my legislation. The Federal Sunset Act is what I'm running on. There are 601 federal agencies in the federal government. If we pass the Federal Sunset Act, each one of them would be subject to an audit, a Six Sigma, and also, if necessary, be up for sunset. Six Sigma is basically a process in which you go through the processes of each of the governments and find out if there's any redundancies and try to eliminate those for cost savings. And I think our huge government can use that. So I've been campaigning very hard on the Sunset Act. When I started in 2020, there were 0 co-sponsors. There are 15 now. And the original came out of North Carolina. The sponsor for it was originally from North Carolina. The sponsor this year was from Texas. And I have to believe it's because I can't stop talking about it. The third thing I'm offering up this time and this cycle, and it's new for me this cycle, is a Taxpayers' Choice Act, in which I want to give the taxpayers a choice. If we must pay taxes, I want to give them a choice to direct those tax dollars to any one of the 601 federal agencies and departments. That way we can really cut down on what government is actually spending on I mean, right now they're spending $1 trillion every 100 days. I call it
down to 100.
It's every 100 days they're spending $1 trillion. This is my national debt clock.
Oh God, yeah. I thought it was at 112. That's why I asked if it's down to 100. I haven't looked for 2-3 weeks.
Right. So this morning I reset this, and it tells you per second what they're spending. This morning it was $88,000 per second that they are spending. I call this my inflation clock because we don't have that kind of cash just sitting around. They have to print that money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually an inflation clock. They're setting the bomb again. And when the only way to drain the swamp is to do the Federal Sunset Act, sunset some of these departments and agencies, which honestly, some of them should be private charity organizations, 501c3s. You know, they really shouldn't be part of the government. That's really where they should belong. But I think the Federal Sunset Act is a head-on attack on the size of government, but the Taxpayers' Choice Act is a pincer movement, because I want to know exactly which federal government agencies the taxpayers actually support. You know, if we did that, then we would know which ones they actually support, because they would direct their tax dollars. So those are the things that I'm focused on this time. The gerrymandering favors the Democrat. So getting her on board with the AUMF is going to be difficult because she's already stated that she's okay with us going to war. I do think I can hold her accountable on the Sunset Act, and I think the Taxpayer Choice Act is going to be something that Democrats can even agree on. So I got two out of three. I think I can get her to get on board with. Otherwise, I want to win the damn thing outright. You know, I run challenge campaigns. It may say on my website our goal is to get to the 13.5%, but the truth is I want to win. And if there's enough people that are not voting in this district to win the election outright. 70% of the people did not vote in 2022 that are eligible to vote. So I expect that about 250,000 will show up, but will not show up in the for the presidential cycle. So that's the 250,000 I have to target. I only need 180,000 to win. The win number is only 180,000. But if I can establish the early adopters, I think I can leverage those votes, just like I did with my 2% vote, to get us co-sponsors on bills that we need to run on, like making the government smaller, giving the taxpayers choice, and ending the wars.
Again, I don't understand what it is with you guys, man. Y'all sound way too freaking reasonable. I don't enjoy this at all. No,
I'm also very reasonable with this.
Yes.
I have it undone, but there's kids outside, so I just unloaded it. So, but I am a Pro 2A guy. I'm in Texas, so we get to constitutional carry. I conceal carry. I don't want anybody to know that I'm carrying because I need the element of surprise. And oftentimes when I walk in somewhere and I leave, no one ever knew I had a gun. And that's the way it really should be. I'm tired of government telling me I can't protect myself. In Dallas, and this is no joke, emergency one calls take 45 minutes.
Jesus. 45 minutes.
45
I mean, if
minutes.
somebody's robbing you, that's a reasonable response time, right? You guys, give me your wallet. Hold on a second. Can you come back in an hour?
Yeah, exactly. So there's not enough police to do the job to get to protect us. I mean, and to earlier point on the show, the Supreme Court has made it clear that they are under no obligation to protect us. Zero obligation to protect us. To your point, the gun is for their safety, not ours. And I want to end qualified immunity. I want to have police carry liability insurance, and I don't care if it's the police union that carries it or if it's the individual police. But I want police to be held accountable by an outside private party, and a liability insurance company is a great way to hold them accountable. And this also saves the taxpayers. When these police step out of line and this municipality gets sued, taxpayers pay twice because the qualified immunity protects the cop from a civil lawsuit. So we're getting punished twice. The taxpayers get punished for the lawsuit and then the payout. So it's like, why don't we get the insurance companies to make the payout? And then that way they can flag the bad cop and make sure he doesn't get a job elsewhere.
That's what Dick Gregory was saying a long time ago. He said, insurance, I don't care if you hate me. I can't control your thoughts. We can control your actions. If you're a jerk, you're uninsurable, and then you can't get a job anywhere. Instead of being shuffled off, I know cops that were involved in bad shootings. They went to another department, much like involved in bad stuff, and they protect them that line.
Yep.
If they have to have insurance, it doesn't matter where they go. If they're uninsurable, they can't work as a cop.
Exactly. So that's the private side of making the cops accountable that, we're missing right now. The qualified immunity is not helping us fix the problem. I'm sure there's far more good cops than there are bad cops, but the bad cops are so, if you step out of line, you become blackballed or you're no longer going to be welcome. And you're going to find yourself in a job that people don't like you, even though you're doing the right thing. So I think we need to change that culture, and we can take that culture away by adding liability insurance because now it's an outside third party. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if it's the individual cop that carries it, or if it's the police union that carries it, or if it's the city, the council. I don't care who carries the liability. I know that once we have that in place, they will be very easily identifying the bad cops for us because of all the complaints. So I think that's a great way. And another thing cops can do to fix this problem, let's focus on the 5 crimes that matter: theft, fraud, assault, rape, and murder. Let's work on those 5 crimes, and I bet your community outreach will be a lot better if you're just working on those crimes: theft, fraud, assault, rapes, and murders. Solve those crimes. I think the rest of us can deal with the rest.
What about speeding tickets? I mean, that's the way to generate revenue for the department and the city.
All they're doing is generating revenue for the department. I mean, in Dallas, if you're not doing 75 on 635, you're getting ran over.
95 on the 95, man. 95 on 95.
You need to be going faster than that if you're on the toll roads. So I think, like I said, I want cops focused on actual crimes with victims. And those 5 crimes are theft, fraud, assault, rape, and murder. if from the federal side, I'm running for congressional office. The best thing I can do is to advocate for ending the qualified immunity on a federal level, and asking that all of our federal police carry liability insurance.
We can actually shut down too. We can shut down a couple of those agencies that are being weaponized, Department of Justice, FBI, CIA. We can end some stuff.
Yeah, that's what my Sunset Act is for. I mean, there's 601 federal agencies. If they were to start reviewing one agency per week, it will take them 12 years to get through round one. 12 years to get through round one. So
I feel like, okay,
that's
so
how big your government
on your
is.
social media, I saw on your social media one of your federal sunset acts in a real form, and I really wish I could play it, but I need the actual video to play it.
Okay.
But I think what would be kind of cool is if we started this like hashtag Sunset Act, right? Federal Sunset Act. I've got so many beautiful pictures of sunsets, and that's what your reel
I do that
is.
on my
Just
page.
beautiful sunsets. And it's something people are going to like to look at, right? And then they're going to think about, what is this Federal Sunset Act? And then maybe they'll look it up. Maybe they won't. You never know, but then they'll pass it on.
That's exactly what I've been doing with my header piece on my Facebook. Is I'll change out the sunset, and then I'll update that and say, Republicans and Democrats have built your limited government into 601 federal agencies and departments. The Federal Sunset Act would fix that. And then I put a link to the actual bill so that people see what it is. And I think that me doing that over the last 4 years is the reason why that bill is now sponsored by a Texan, and there's 7 other congressional candidates from Texas that are co-sponsors. Is because I've been just nonstop about that bill and how we can actually install a drain in DC.
So, speaking of Texas.
Yeah.
Exactly. Texas is a big state.
Yeah, I'm in Dallas.
Several congressional districts. What's your Congress district? Name some cities. Let's go through. Make sure you get your plugs in there. Okay.
All right. So the cities here locally, luckily, this congressional district is compacted into a metropolitan area. So it's pretty close. I can actually drive from one section to the other in one day. That wasn't the case when I ran in CD5. I had to take a day to get out there. So it's all here in the Dallas, Collin, and Denton County areas. It includes Carrollton, Plano, Addison, Richardson, Garland, a slight piece of Mesquite, and all of Box Springs, and most of East Dallas around the White Rock Lake area. So that's like the Lake Highlands, Lockwood area. All of that area is all now Congressional District 32. So the good news is I've been campaigning in that area for 6 years now. So my name recognition is up, which is why I'm focused on just issues. So people know who I am. I'm the chair of the Libertarian Party of Dallas County. So I've been interviewed several times by WFAA, which, by the way, I got another interview from Mike Termat when he comes to town through WFAA. So that's good for me. I got him an interview when he comes to town. So I'm not an unknown trying to get my name out there. People know that I run. So I'm focused on these issues so that people see that I'm serious about this. I am the legislative coordinator for Texas, so I spent the entire session on site at the state legislature in Austin, advocating for our libertarian positions. So I have experience in the state house. I can take that experience to DC and feel very comfortable that I can get things done the way they need to get done. Right now, what I'm having to do is leverage my votes to get co-sponsors. But if I won, that would send a message to both parties that maybe this guy has something better to offer and a way out of the problems that they've created. And that's what I'm hoping will happen, is that people will see this guy's got an actual plan of how to fix these things. And I hope that the peace, being strongly for peace, will play out with our young voters, because I think they see the writing on the wall and they see that they're going to get drafted into a war they don't want to be in. And I hope that they will let their voices be heard and give me their vote, because I really am the only candidate that's going to stop the wars.
Tell those boys in Texas, Ukraine is cold.
My name's cold.
Yeah, it's real cold. Yeah,
It's real cold.
yeah, it's real cold. Yeah, exactly.
So I got some of your signs. Now I've got some. I'm gonna put them up here.
Yep.
Gosh,
Yep. That's my voter turnout sign.
Yeah.
That's my hope sign. I want people to know that you can give me your vote and give me a chance to win. There's enough people not voting. I mean, if somebody just does the quick math, that's 300,000 people not voting.
Between the people not voting and the people that are disenfranchised with the majority candidates, Feena and I were talking about this earlier. A lot of folks are catering to liberty candidates. Donald Trump has talked about getting rid of Department of Education and Free and Ross. And it looks like Holocaust Joe Biden just, what was that thing he did? There you go.
There you go, free to sign.
Free Assange.
And so they are listening, and they are listening to the message of freedom and starting to cater to us. But that's the really low-hanging fruit. We got to have deep cuts, and we got to have people like you and Feena and Mike come in and actually do the job of shrinking government, or it will not serve we the people. Cannot.
You too, Mike Scott. I can't do it by myself. That's why we have a voting block in Washington.
None of us can do this by ourselves.
And we need it in the House.
We need a gold rush. And, 25% or so of Republicans can't stand our Republican candidate because he's got a terrible record. And about the same number don't even like our Democratic candidate. But they're so opposed to each other. Right now, I'm polling, I think they said 3-4%. I think they're grossly underestimating that 3-4%. I think I'm going to pull 13 to 15. And if they mess around, I'm going to win. So I hope you win, man. Feena, we're going to go through and do a gold rush. We can get it because our message is pure. Freedom.
I'm going to show some more of these. Okay, so we've got the Sunset Act.
Yeah, I got to get the edit on that. I went back and counted. There's only 601. So I'm going to do an edit on that coming up.
That's okay.
But it's still true.
Then we
still true. This was the big one right here. This one's going to win. That's a big 4x4 sign. I need donations to build these signs and have the hardware to put them up is $40. Make a $40 donation, please. This one is a good one. Like that ball and chain on that taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Taxpayer Choice Act. I'll update the number to have 601 because I recounted this morning to make sure before I put those out in public.
Now, I went across federal agencies before, and I only counted like 187. I'm trying to wonder how you're counting them because
I went to Google and I said, give me an A to Z of all the federal agencies, and I put a link of that on my website. So
I'd love to go through it. When I was at Office
there's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of, we even have an AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps seniors. It seems to me that we could just combine those into one agency and save ourselves a few dollars. So that's the kind of stuff that's happening out there. There's a bunch of redundancy. You'll see like the Senate has a Senate thing, and then they have the Office of the Senate thing, and then they have the Office of, research for the Senate, and it's just redundant. It's crazy. That's why I put the list up on a link to the list on my website, because I want people to go, really? They do that too?
When people realize, and I don't know the numbers, but in Maryland, something like 20% of our workforce is federal, state, or local government workers. That's like 470,000 or so people are directly plugged in and working for the state or federally.
Right. Yeah.
Out of 2 million.
Yeah, government wasn't supposed to be a jobs program. It was supposed to make it a situation where the jobs could be grown in the private market, and to serve whenever somebody's rights were infringed. And that's not what they do now. The problem with these 601 federal agencies and departments is that they are creating laws without legislation. They're creating regulations without legislation. And that's the job of Congress. And they're not doing that. They'll create regulations through their agency and then force those onto the public's economy. And those laws never went through a legislative process and never went through, getting voted on or amended or any of that. So that's the problem with all of these agencies, is that they get to make regulations without legislation.
I think right now we're going to take a little break. We're going to come back. We're going to play a Chase Oliver video because we talked a little bit about war. I really like this Chase Oliver video.
Yeah.
Our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been defeated.
30,000 additional troops that I'm announcing tonight will deploy.
American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq.
I ordered the United States Armed Forces to launch precision strikes on targets.
President Trump issued the second veto of his presidency overnight, rejecting a call from Congress to end U.S. involvement in Yemen.
5 days or 5 weeks or 5 months, but it certainly isn't going to last any longer than that.
We thought we had learned this lesson after Vietnam.
The U.S. has spent $6 trillion on wars in the Middle East.
War and preparation for war is a racket serving the special interests.
Major defense stocks added around $20 billion in market cap.
As the major parties become more and more war-hungry, libertarians have been sounding the alarm about the dangers of building an unsustainable military empire since its inception.
Foreign policy has nothing to do with national security. It never changes from one administration to the next.
The United States will be sending 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine.
At least 37 million people have been displaced from their homes because of the United States wars.
I will end wars. I will stop drones. I will close Gitmo, and I will talk to our enemies, because diplomacy is better than war. The only solution the two-party system offers us is at the barrel of a gun. It's with more violence, more war, and more regulation against your rights. Vote Libertarian to oppose these infringements on your rights and your liberty. I'm Chase Oliver, a candidate for president, and I approve this message.
At least 37 million people have been displaced from their homes because of the United States wars.
A bit of rice is all she has to feed her 12 children.
They destroyed our homes, and now we have nothing.
I'm anti-war to the core, and that means I oppose the warfare state as it exists all over the world, and we need to bring our troops back home.
Every time a bomb drops on an innocent person and their collateral damage, that collateral damage is bought and paid for by your tax dollars in the military-industrial complex, and we need to reject that.
American and coalition forces.
30,000 additional troops.
Precision strikes on targets.
31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine.
I saw friends of mine getting to go sit to fight and die and be injured in wars that we were based on lies that our government was telling us. They tried to expand the security state using 9/11 as an excuse, and that's what got me passionate into politics. We have to fight for a peace-based foreign policy. And we've had presidential candidates in the past say things like, we're going to close Gitmo, we're going to end the wars, we're going to stop the drones, and we're going to actually talk to our enemies using diplomacy as a tool. That presidential candidate actually got elected. His name was Barack Obama, and he lied about every single promise he made. And that pushed me out of the two-party system and right into the hands of the Libertarian Party. And I was welcomed in because this is the real anti-war party in this country. I will end wars. I will stop drones. I will close Gitmo, and I will talk to our enemies, because diplomacy is better than war. I'm Chase Oliver, a candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Man, did you see those numbers? Oh.
I've been thinking about it because every time they manufacture an emergency to take more and more of our rights away, and it kind of made me start thinking about the border issues. And you're down there in Texas. Normally I'm open borders, but since we have such a fractured, terrible foreign policy, destabilizing Europe, the Middle East, Central and South America, and our inner cities. With our fractured foreign policy, it's only a matter of time before there's a significant event. I'm talking terrorist event. I'm talking somebody getting back at us because we displaced and bombed one of their kids 10, 15, 20 some odd years ago.
Yep.
Something bad is going to happen, and that's going to allow them to crack down even further, and we are going to beg for it as America. And that's where we're going, and I'm scared to death of them taking our guns while we have a porous border that may be being infiltrated by enemies that, all BS aside, we probably deserve because we've been out there messing around, being stupid in no stupid zone for 20 some odd years. And we got chased out of Afghanistan. We didn't even win. I mean, trillions.
20 years, trillions of dollars to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. Yeah. And we should have known that because Russia did the same damn thing.
Well, it was never about protecting life. It was about selling arms and armaments, because that's how we've propped up our debt economy, is by being warmongers. And I'm saying that America, internet, TV, car, airplane, we can invent stuff. We can invent stuff other than crap to go kill people and take their stuff.
Right.
We should. We have 750 bases in 80 countries. We're too big and too nasty.
One of the things that I see you guys are talking about and you're highlighting is a great lesson in a book that I like to read while I'm on campaign. I'll pull it down. It's called The Art of War, right? And one of the things they talk about is that it's important that you do not besiege world cities. And when you take a country, you take it whole. You take it whole, not pieces. And you guys are talking about, what happens when you try to besiege, take over world cities and change them and throw them over. And also what happens when you take a country and you try to piecemeal it. You try to take over parts. And that's also what's happening in Ukraine is they're piecemealing it. And it's not going to work.
Unless it's to keep the war going and to keep things destabilized so we can sell more weapons, and then it's working just as it's designed. I mean,
that's the problem, isn't it? I think that it is working exactly as it's designed to do. And the sad thing is that the governments care so little about innocent lives that they don't mind. That they don't mind drone bombing.
I think I'm seeing what you guys are putting down, and it's like they've taken this knowledge that is in the book, right? And they say, well, what if we didn't do that? What would happen? Well, we see what's happening. We're in perpetual war state.
Yep.
And it goes back to my inspirational statement from our campaign is, imagine if we spent the same amount of energy into developing rockets to go to outer space as we do for rockets with warheads to send to foreign countries. Because those people have jobs. Those are jobs. Like weapons development is still a job, but it's easily cross over to like space exploration, for instance. And you were talking earlier about like, let Americans and people decide where their tax dollars go. Well, I don't have children, so I don't really have that vested of an interest in providing, for free daycare or,
Right.
And I'm not saying that the education system is free daycare, but there is actual programs that are free daycare. I don't necessarily want to pay into that. I would rather pay into NASA. Yeah. Like people think that would be like one of the things that fall off. I completely disagree. I think it'd be
me too.
Better funded. Because every time when you look in the news and you look at the good stories and the ones that get the most hits, like the most popular ones, it's the good stories about space exploration, because it gives us a sense of hope, something to look forward to, something that says we're striving as a human society to work together to, do something bigger than just one person.
My only thing with NASA getting more money is when I crossed over from enlisted to officer, I worked out in LA, and we worked on what we called then the Space Maneuver Vehicle. Before that, it was called Dinosaur, some such nonsense. It flew a few years back. It was called the X-37. That's like almost 30 years later. Ellen, whatever the hell. Him and SpaceX, I really like the way they're doing things. And I liked it when Bezos was in it too, because they were sitting there competing with each other. We have all sorts of stuff. We had an evolved expendable launch vehicle SPO that we could just get rid of. We had a reusable launch vehicle SPO, Special Programs Office, whatever it's called. We had all these things for space, but government is inefficient and slow and kind of risk averse. It's much better to let those guys do it, the civilians, and have their failures and explosions and insurance, and they'll get there a lot faster than we could. So
I
do agree we should be throwing some money for space exploration, but
maybe to the private sector.
I don't know. I can't say. I have to go look at it more. I haven't really been in that world in a long time. I got a bunch of friends who are still in that world, and they can't tell me half the stuff because most of it's TS. But
right, yeah.
But we can still have those discussions and figure out a way forward best for the American people. I'm just really leery of handing the government money because them cats don't know how to spend it. They keep bombing folks.
No, they don't. Clearly, they don't know how to spend it. We're $34 trillion in debt. They're spending $88,000 a year, which half the people in my district don't make that in 2 years. So they're spending in 1 second what some of my people can't even make in 2 years. So that's the problem, and that it's just an inflation bomb about to happen. The other problem we have with these constant wars is that we're making the same mistake that the Romans made. They perpetuated their war, they devalued their currency, and they tried to prop everybody up on the bread and circus of the Colosseum, and it all failed. So why can't we learn from history and not do that? I mean, Britain failed because of their expansion of empire. I mean, we've seen this play out over and over and over again. And I'm just like, when are we going to learn from history? And we just seem to not even remember what happened last week. It's sad, actually.
Yeah.
Well, we are winding down towards the end of our show, and I just want to go through some comments because
you've got a libertarian.
Yes, you've got a fan club. We all have a fan club.
Yay!
And she says, yes, it is. Yep, Kevin, a downward spiral when we're talking about the war. Joe Hanush says, I'm in favor of sunset with all bills. Yes, sir. And then when they come to Tampa, I'll step in as bodyguard. That was Snyder from Florida talking about when, what was his name?
Chase.
When Chase comes.
Secret Service.
Picture, see if I can find it. Oh my gosh, where was it? Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had that. What else did we have?
I have one plug I have to make. I would be remiss if I didn't make that. Go with Joe's comment first.
Sorry.
Hey, Joe.
Take the forks first, eat lunch later. The most pro-utensil president ever. Yes.
Take them first. Take them first.
And then this one's from a while back. Snyder from Florida. Feena walking around and campaigning looking like Braveheart with a sword shouting freedom. Yeah, well, except for it's a machete.
You see, we carried machetes, man.
So, in case you didn't know, Nathaniel Snyder, who was on our show last week, he has a cage fight coming up, and
in October, right? Or
October. Let's see.
11th?
October
October 11th.
Election day.
No, the election day. He has one fight October 11th, and then another fight on election day.
That's
that's awesome.
There you go.
So that's Chase Oliver's future campaign strong arm. And thank you so much for coming on, Kevin. Do you want to say anything else before we go? We got about 2 more minutes.
Yes.
Before
Where can we find you?
Yeah.
You can find me at GiveCongressHale.com. You can find me on Facebook at GiveCongressHale. You can find me on Twitter at HaleGive. Those are all 3 of my handles there.
Okay.
Hey, thank you. The thing I'm doing right now is I'm trying to raise enough money to buy those 4-foot by 4-foot street signs. We're trying to raise $4,000 by the end of July. So
4 foot by 4 foot, big.
Yeah, he said they were $40 each.
Street signs. Because of all the information, I'm trying to make them as big as I could. So
yeah. So is it going to be banner form or is it going to be?
It's a coroplast. Coroplast, and we're going to hold it on with grommets and big sticks. The 6-foot metal post.
Instead of doing the 6-foot metal post, let me give you this little piece of advice. Go to the Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. Get the pipe. Get pipe. Like PVC pipe.
Oh, PVC pipe.
Yeah, and you build it. You can build it, and that way you can actually, it'll
hold.
4 foot by 4 foot is a sail, my friend.
Yeah,
it is a sail.
Especially in Texas.
But you can even build like the feet. You could build in feet. And go for the plastic. It's lightweight. You can disassemble it. That's the big key. You can disassemble it and put it in the back of your Prius. If you got a Prius.
Right.
I don't know if you do.
I have to throw up one overlay real quick because I got to plug LP Maryland Summer Picnic. It's this weekend, June 29th, 1 to 6. They usually do a crab feast, and it's kind of a good time. So if you're in Maryland, come out and hang out with us.
Ooh, that sounds good. I love crab.
Oh, my God.
That's good.
And, man, thank you for coming on. I
appreciate you inviting me.
I did not know about the Federal Sunset Act. I've been talking about sunsetting agencies since I started this thing. I'm going to go through and look at that, and I might be one of your co-sponsors, man.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I do need donations, so if you can make a $40 donation, that buys a sign and the hardware.
$40 each buys a sign. He wants 1,000 of them. Help this man out because
1,000
he's
would be
doing the
great.
Lord's work.
100 would be better.
Yeah.
I would love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on. And for the rest of the folks, we will see you
next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday. Ciao.